What is going on, Trash Talkers? We're back with another episode for you. In today's video, we're going to make an NFL team out of NBA superstars. All that and much more coming your way right now! Hey Trash Talkers, over 85% of you are still not subscribed to the channel. Please be sure to hit that red subscribe button and turn on notifications, as it will help us create more daily content for you. Thank you and enjoy today's video. Alright Nick, we have a fun one here for everyone today. With the NBA season about to begin, it kind of drew up the question about some NBA players and how they would fare in the NFL. And obviously it's been joked around that LeBron James would arguably be one of the best tight ends in NFL history, with his freak athleticism being 6'9" and just being one of the most demonstrative leapers that we've ever seen in sports. I think that this kind of brought up the question of, could you make an NFL team out of NBA players? So we kind of just built a roster. You know, it's not a full-fledged 53-man roster, but some players that will definitely fit specific positions. And why don't we get started taking a look at, obviously, the almighty quarterback position. I think this one goes without saying, but Chris Paul, he is the unequivocal leader, not only for his team, but for the entire NBA. He is the head of the NBA Players Association. He knows how to command an offense. He knows how to get people in position, make them better. That is exactly what you expect from a quarterback. What'd you think about Chris Paul as the quarterback here?
I love Chris Paul as the quarterback. As you said, his leadership ability, that's exactly what you want at the quarterback position. And his ability to facilitate, I think that would go a long way as well. He knows where to put the ball, when to do it at the right time. I think that he would be perfect as a quarterback in the NFL.
Absolutely, and some people might go and say, well, you know, he's too short. You need a taller quarterback. Look at Kyler Murray, 5'10", Russell Wilson, 5'11". Chris Paul is on the higher end of 6 feet right now, so I would say that he's in the perfect position to be the athletic quarterback that I think he can be. And we've seen him with those cross-court passes with the basketball. The football's a lot smaller, and I believe that his athleticism would allow him to be a great dual-threat quarterback. Next up, we have the running back position. Nick, who do you think would make the best running back?
Yeah, so at running back, I'm looking for a gritty player, somebody who's not afraid to get down in the trenches, get dirty. I like Jimmy Butler for this. He's a guy who's always in the trenches, always in the paint. He loves getting into those physical situations. He would be perfect. I think he'd be like a Nick Chubb. I think that he would go a long way. He's not afraid of contact, and I think he would even be able to stand up against some of these linebackers. Jimmy Butler, he may be 6'7", but that's not going to stop him. He'll be absolutely plowing over these defensive players.
I mean, you think Derrick Henry is a monster in the backfield. Imagine if Jimmy Butler was the one who was running through offensive lines, hitting holes with conviction. This guy, he looks for contact in the NBA. Just imagine what would happen if he had a helmet and pads on. So I really like Jimmy Butler. I think he would make a great running back for our team here. Next up, we have the wide receiver position, and a guy who I think could be a really good wide receiver because of the way his body is and how lanky he is. Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant has those long arms that can go up and get those 50-50 balls. He's not afraid to go up and get rebounds in the NBA. He's always been one who's been physical when he needed to be. And I believe in the NFL, while you see some of the wide receivers who go up get these 50-50 balls, they're not the biggest bodies. DeAndre Hopkins and Devonta Smith and some of these guys that can burn you deep. I believe that's exactly what you'll get with Kevin Durant at the wide receiver position.
Absolutely. Kevin Durant is one of those guys who has the physical attributes, but I think he also has the mentality of a wide receiver, that prima donna mentality. He's a guy who's going to absolutely throw his hands up after he gets touched, and he's going to call out the ref, say, hey, you need to throw the flag there. That's Kevin Durant. That's what a wide receiver is. It's a perfect pairing.
I like Kevin Durant as a wide receiver, but when you have somebody on the outside, you also need somebody on the inside, and that's usually a slot receiver. And with the way slot receivers have matured over the years, you've seen a lot of speedy guys start entering the fray here. And I'm going to take the fastest guy in the NBA, De'Aaron Fox. He's a short speedster that has quick momentum that he can shift side to side. He can break ankles, so he's going to be great on cut routes. He's going to be able to work the middle of the field, and he knows how to take a hit. He gets gritty, just like some of the running backs and wide receivers we see. I like De'Aaron Fox as the slot receiver here.
Yeah, De'Aaron Fox would be a great slot receiver, like you said. He's got the speed, he's got decent size, and he's, when you look at slot receivers, they're never the biggest names. De'Aaron Fox isn't the biggest name, so he would fit well in that role. He wouldn't be getting the ball all the time, and then as a returner, I think he'd be great as well. That shiftiness, that speed would come into play really well. He'd be a great fit at a slot receiver and returner.
Absolutely. I love that pairing. And next up, we have the tight end position. I kind of alluded to the fact before, but LeBron James would be the best tight end that we may have ever seen in the NFL if he ever decided to suit up. He had already joked about joining tight end university with Travis Kelce and Darren Waller next year. I'd be excited to see exactly what this guy can do, because at 6'8", 6'9", about 250 pounds, this man can go up and literally climb a ladder on anybody. He can one hand catch any ball. He's not afraid to get physical. Now, some of the receiving tight ends act like wide receivers, like Kevin Durant. You said prima donna. I think LeBron can get that as well. But overall, I believe that he is willing to do what it takes to get the ball. He's going to be a physical part of the offense, the central part of the offense, almost like the Brady and Gronk era in New England. I like what LeBron James would bring to an NFL offense at the tight end position.
Oh, absolutely. LeBron James, like you said, he'd be the epitome of what you want in a receiver, and at tight end, he's such a big guy. There's nobody on the defense that could ever stop this man. He would honestly put Calvin Johnson to shame with how big and physical he is. I think if you were to put LeBron James on the football field, there's not a soul that's going to stop him. He'd be one of the greatest football players in NFL history.
Absolutely. And finally, on the offense, we have the offensive line. You can't forget about those guys. They get down, they get dirty, and they are some of the biggest guys you will ever see in your lifetime. And that's exactly what I see when I see Nikola Jokic. He is not afraid to get down and dirty. He does what it needs to take to win his one-on-one matchup. He has a command of the offense at the center position in the NBA. And I believe that he'd be able to command the offensive line, really understand what pass rushes are trying to do. He'd be able to identify Mike linebackers and really help out his offense. The offensive line plays a very key role, just like the center does in the NBA. I think Nikola Jokic would be perfect for that situation.
Yeah, center, I mean, they're in the trenches. They're getting, physical down there, and, you have to have some smarts to be able to identify what's going on. That's exactly what offensive linemen do. He also knows how to protect his players in NBA. That's what offensive linemen do as well. There's a lot of similarities between the two positions, and I think that Jokic would be a really solid offensive line in the NFL.
Absolutely. Next up, let's move over to the defense, where we take on the defensive tackle position. And I think this is an interesting one, because defensive tackles are usually big guys with long arms that need to be able to stop the run and rush the passer at the same time. Taco Fall, 7'7", 325 pounds. This man is just a behemoth human, and I believe that if you were to stand this guy up in front of any quarterback, let alone CP3, I think that he would just be able to knock down any pass that would be right in front of him.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about JJ SWAT, JJ who? I mean, Taco Fall is going to be blocking everything. You only need one defensive tackle if it's Taco Fall, because all he has to do is put his arms out like this, and he's blocking everything that's being thrown. You cannot throw over the middle of the field. Taco Fall, gigantic human. Good luck trying to pass over him.
Absolutely. And next up, we have the defensive end position. Definitely a guy who is physical, somebody who's going to want to get after somebody else and really show their athleticism off. That's where I see Zion Williamson. He is young, he's ready to go after people, and I believe that he has the physical attributes to be one of the most dominant defensive ends that we have in the NFL. Zion Williamson, as big as he is at 6'10", 275 pounds, this man can move so quickly. He can bend edges. He has the ability to work around offensive linemen and use his physical attributes to get after quarterbacks and be able to set the edge on runs. I like where Zion Williamson would be on this defense.
Absolutely. I think Zion Williamson would kind of be similar to Myles Garrett. The two are big human beings, absolutely jacked. And I think with Zion Williamson's athleticism, he would be able to bull rush you with his size, but also have the finesse to get around you as well with some spin moves. I think he'd be a great defensive end who would be getting to the quarterback constantly.
Next up, we have the middle linebacker position, essentially the quarterback of the defense. And I believe that Blake Griffin would be one of the best middle linebackers that we could see making the transition from the NBA to the NFL. Blake Griffin led an offense not only in Detroit, but in LA for many years as a power forward. He's a big physical guy who's not afraid to get down and dirty when he needs to. He's a guy who understands what opposing teams are trying to get done, and he can foresee it happening and stop it in its tracks. He's a guy that I believe that can do a lot of different things in a lot of different ways, and he can be the leader of this defense.
Yeah, Blake Griffin, big physical guy, plays down in the paint. You got to be tough there. He's going to be hitting the hole hard, trying to stop the offense, stop the running backs. That's exactly what Blake Griffin would be great at. That'd be his specialty. I think that this is, middle linebacker would be one of the best positions out there for Blake Griffin.
Next up, we have our outside linebacker, a guy that can rush the passer, but also drop back in coverage if need be. Needs to be somebody who's uber athletic and has the ability to understand what is needed and do their job specifically. I'm looking at Giannis Anterekumbo. I think Giannis is one of those guys that can really get after a quarterback if you just let him fly. But if you drop him into coverage, he is going to look like a Zaven Collins and Isaiah Simmons, somebody that the Cardinals would draft in the first round. I like exactly what Giannis does for this defense. I think he would be perfect as an outside linebacker.
Yeah, Giannis is one of those guys who runs around constantly. I think he'd be great at going sideline to sideline. His motor doesn't give out. He'd be great. He's not afraid to get physical, so he's willing to take on contact with receivers and running backs, tight ends. It doesn't matter. Giannis Antetokounmpo would be one of the best linebackers we would ever see.
Next up, we have the cornerback position. You need somebody who's going to be feisty. You need somebody who's not afraid to trash talk. Somebody that I expect to be somebody like Jalen Ramsey. Somebody to be like Deion Sanders. Patrick Beverley comes to mind, and I believe that his scrappiness, his ability to foresee passes and really break on those passes, intercept them, really turn the tides in the game, that is exactly who Patrick Beverley is and has been throughout his entire career. No matter where he's been, he is given 110%, and that's exactly what you're going to get from your CB1. Patrick Beverley is going to be the guy that is going to be a tone setter. He's going to lay the wood, and he's going to be able to be what we remember as Revis Island. Well, it's going to be Patrick Beverley Island, because this guy, he's going to lock an entire half of the field down.
Absolutely. Yeah, Patrick Beverley is one of those guys who's always in your grill, always up in your face, and that's why a lot of people don't like Patrick Beverley. That would be great in the NFL as a cornerback. You want to be one-on-one with the receiver. You want to be in their grill, getting in their face, blocking passes. That's exactly what Patrick Beverley would be great at. I think he would be very similar to Tre'Davious White, one of the best lockdown corners in the NFL. Patrick Beverley might even be better.
I love Patrick Beverley, but with a cornerback, you always need somebody over the top. And I believe that person would be Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard's athleticism would allow him to both play in the box, but also act as a free safety when need be. I believe that he'd be able to act as a pseudo linebacker if he needed to in a nickel formation, but also drop into coverage and cover anybody that he could find on the field. With his freak athleticism, his ability to go up and grab any pass, I believe that he would be a defender that most would fear. He would remind me of a mix between Troy Polamalu and Ed Reed.
Wow, you have those two guys. I think he's more of like a Cam Chancellor, someone who's big, strong, and willing to do what needs to be done. Kawhi Leonard, he's put teams on his back before. He could do the same as a safety, really take command of this defense, and I think that he could play all over the field. He could play deep zones. He could play in the box, anywhere you want him to. Kawhi Leonard is an all-in-one tool that could be utilized greatly in the NFL.
And finally, no team is complete without their kicker and punter. And, you know, with the NBA the way it is, I think that we have to acknowledge the greatness that we've seen from some players. And some players have showcased exactly what they would do in these circumstances. I think Draymond Green would be the best kicker we could have on our team. Listen, he has shown us exactly what he brings to the position. I think that he is going to be the perfect option for our kicker and punter on our team.
Draymond Green, yeah, you had it exactly right. He's shown his form, he's shown his technique, and it is spot on. He's hit the ball every time, if you know what I mean. So he'd be great in the NFL. He'd make he'd get everything to go every single time.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he'd definitely be a Pro Bowler, but I want to hear from you guys. Let us know in the comments down below if you like our team, if you would add anybody to it, if you would change anybody out. I want to hear from you guys. Let us know in the comments down below. All right, well, that's going to be all for now. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.